What is going on? Yeah. No. Come on. Question, question.
What's up? What's up?
What's up? What's up, you there?
I had to turn all my things on.
Okay. Okay, okay.
Hang on, let me close my door.
Yeah, okay.
My daughter and I kind of share the basement, so her room is
Uh,
like on the other side. I don't want to be
uh,
yelling.
okay. So your daughter is also working at home?
Yeah, she's 19. She is a cook at the
Ah,
Cracker Barrel right now.
okay.
Very American job, right?
Very
Making
American.
pancakes and eggs in the morning for the old folks in the community.
Uh,
She just graduated from cosmetology school.
oh,
Uh, but we are on the way to that European trip that I told you all about.
yeah.
So, you know, no need for her to go running out to get the big jobs just yet.
Yeah.
Let's go on vacation and enjoy it, you know.
Yeah. Enjoy life. Okay, so it's a very unscripted podcast. I,
I mean, you know, sometimes the
you
best
know,
ones are.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Some people are like, ah, let's do a list of questions. Go, okay. Uh,
So I mean, like I run a daily show and we do a little bit of prep. I have a whole
uh-huh.
team. I have a whole team behind me that runs
Oh yeah.
the logistics. If you would
Uh-huh.
like an introduction to them, I'm happy
Yeah.
to do that.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. So I was thinking about just asking a few questions for 30 or 40 minutes, and yeah, so my coaches and consultants will know more about sales.
Yeah.
And I usually ask, why sales? Why did you land in sales?
So for me, I think I probably represent 95% of the sellers out there that never thought sales was my destiny. Everybody that I've coached, trained, helped, worked with, when you say, how'd you get into sales? They all kind of have the same answer. And it's, I sort of fell backwards into this. And then, you know, I've never met a young person, you know, a family member that was in their, you know, young years. Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they're like, oh, I can't wait to be a salesperson. You know, like that.
Yeah.
That's just not something that you hear. You know, you might hear
Yeah.
police officers and
Yeah.
lawyers and doctors, you know,
I
this,
was
I
like
want to be a
that.
superhero, you know, there's like all these things that you hear. You know, I want to be a surgeon. You hear all types of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to play baseball, even like the sports thing, you know. I want to be a EMT and a nurse. You know, you hear these things, but you never
Yeah.
hear salesperson or marketer.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's ever like, I can't wait to create images for a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
And like that's a thing that I think we see a lot in the professional worlds. And yet the best people, you know, they do that. So why sales for me? Um, I spent a lot of time in the kitchen. I was a professional cook for 15 years.
Mhm.
Lots of big chain restaurants like Chili's and Applebee's and Cracker Barrel and lots of stuff like that. And I think it really got me talking to strangers very quickly. You know,
Uh-huh.
if you think about a front of the house person at a restaurant, you know, we approach
Yeah.
tables full of strangers
Uh-huh.
hundreds of times a day
Yeah.
and say the line. What's the
Uh-huh.
line? Hi, my name's James. I'll be your server tonight. Can I start you off with some nachos, maybe some margaritas?
Yeah.
Right there.
Okay,
It's the pitch right away. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's
we
my
are
pitch on
very
LinkedIn.
well,
Looking
it kind
forward
of
to sip some
sounds like a
margaritas.
DM. So you can already sort of see the correlation, right?
Yeah.
And then I ended up spending most of that time in the back of the house,
Uh-huh.
and figured out the logistics of the food and the way it's cooked. And I fell in love with the food process,
Uh-huh.
and the way that it hits the table and the training part of it. So much fun, right?
Hmm.
That translated really well for me into sales because I had no fear of talking to strangers. That seemed
Yeah.
very natural to me.
Uh-huh.
Bartenders are the same way. So I tell salespeople all the time, or sales managers that are
Yeah.
hiring, like, go find restaurant people and
Uh-huh.
just let them serve you
Yeah.
and have great back and forth with them.
Uh-huh.
You feel maybe you could offer them a job. Like they might be good at this, you know. And
Yeah.
I say that all the time because it's very
Yeah.
common to see top sellers with
Uh-huh.
restaurant backgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why sales for me is that I like talking to strangers. I have fun with people. That gets me excited when people reach back out to me and they say, "Hey, that thing that we talked about for 15 minutes, 30 minutes, that really helped me. I scheduled 3 meetings that day." And you're like,
Oh.
"Heck yeah, man!" Like
Yeah.
I get up in the morning for that feeling. So that's
Yeah.
why sales for me.
Uh-huh. Cool, cool, cool. Oh, I once used to work in gastronomy too. I used to sell sandwiches in a very, very high-paced, you know, shop in Germany.
Hmm.
And my supervisor used to ask me, why did you are a psychologist, you are a sales guy, why here? Hey, it's sales. Why
It's all,
not?
I mean, it's all, you know, if you can tie your value to a
Yeah,
dollar,
yeah.
then you're always
Why not?
employable. You're always
Yeah,
profitable.
right.
Somebody will pay you for that service, that skill. And no, no, again, nobody like grows up saying, I want to be in sales. It becomes a skill that you develop over time and
Yeah.
exposure. Like I personally, I bounced out of the kitchens. I would do door-to-door sales, and it was door-to-door B2B and door-to-door residential.
Mm.
On the residential side, I did pest control, and on the B2B side, I did AT&T phone lines.
Oh.
So like, I was going to construction sites and, oh, who's servicing your lines? And here's my card, and I'd love to get your line set up when you guys are
Yeah.
ready to put that in. And I'd go to small businesses and I'd watch for them to like have to hang up the phone to run a credit card, and I'd say, hey, I put another line in for you for your credit card machine, and that way you wouldn't have to stop talking to your customers to be able to swipe your credit card. In
Yeah.
the early days, it had to happen. So that was a very good, it was a good business model. Um, and all of that was happening face to face.
Uh-huh.
And then in 2014, I went back to college, probably 2010,
Uh-huh.
2009, and I graduated in 2014 at like 35 years old with a degree in writing communications. And
Uh-huh.
I was told I could do a lot of things with that degree.
Uh-huh.
What I did not know was that I would land a sales development representative role at a software company
Uh-huh.
here in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
That seems like really unlikely. So I was like, okay. And if you know anything about the geography and the peoples of Tennessee, you know that it's very country music. You
Uh-huh.
wouldn't expect a Silicon Valley feel
Uh-huh.
in the mountains of East Tennessee. So I was, oh, software company, like, hey, I've done sales. Like, I'm happy to talk about having the job. Like, let's talk about it, right? It was a great salary and it was a great commission structure. And I became a top performer very quickly as
Mm.
a cold caller and a cold outreach person. We were a client engagement specialist was my technical title,
Uh-huh.
but really we were SDRs. That was our job.
Yeah.
And it was loads of fun. I got to travel a lot. I ended up moving around the globe twice to
Uh-huh.
represent this company at events all over the globe. I built my personal brand, Say What Sales,
Uh-huh.
which is like the thing that I represent. I say if you're a salesperson, we're the same
Uh-huh.
person in all my
Yeah.
content. That's how I pull salespeople into my corner. That's how I create this following.
Yeah.
It's become a passion really, and it's been a lot of fun to help a lot of people by
Uh-huh.
creating content that helps them level up every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. You worked a lot face to face with people, and how do you approach sales on LinkedIn? Because it's uh, quite different.
Well, I think there's a lot of approaches on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I think just like any other channel, we have to look at things in segments. If you know that you sell well to the CRO, then you could probably use LinkedIn to find CROs and target that title. But chances are good if you're in a world of generic messaging and you're not being relevant, being personalized, using trigger and signal based led sales messaging, you're probably already behind the cue ball and maybe ruining your credibility as a seller at the
Mm.
same time. I think we're in a transition phase, and we have been for some time, where, like many other channels, LinkedIn has become very common for sales best practices. Because that's true, most LinkedIn users are heavily guarded at the moment. They're
Mm.
already defaulting to LinkedIn because the inbox has become so crowded
Mm.
with AI and automation working
Yeah.
together to maximize output and inputs into the inbox. LinkedIn used to be their safe haven, and now it's also becoming very templated and very AI driven and
Yeah.
very quote unquote personalized, right?
Yeah.
Big air quotes around personalized. So it's big. I think LinkedIn has to be something that you're willing to humanize yourself with. And it's okay to send generic messaging and it's okay to use automation and it's okay to maximize outputs, but how are you using channels like LinkedIn to humanize your approach? Let me give you a good example.
Uh-huh.
I might set up a nurture cadence that sends only valuable stuff that's relevant to my target buyers via email. But on the back end, I'm sending blank connection requests. And
Yeah.
as they accept, I'm sending them personalized voice notes in their DMs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm referencing the emails and the content that I'm sending them via email. I'm even
Mm-hmm.
telling them what the subject lines of those emails are so that they can go search for them, right? And this aids in replies. Hey, James, thanks for sending that DM. I never would have found this,
Uh-huh.
right? And like you can use these channels like LinkedIn and many others now to be able to give your written words voice. And that's very helpful for people that are avoiding those written words right now because they don't
Mm-hmm.
know what's been written by a human being and what's been auto generated by ChatGPT
Uh-huh.
or some other
Yeah.
service.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Uh, and do you what part of the work is automated?
I think if you have enough value from your marketing department, and this is,
Yeah.
I'm touching a nerve here
Uh-huh.
because we're talking now, we've sort of shifted from like what's working on LinkedIn to sales and marketing alignment in a
Mm-hmm.
quick fashion,
Yeah.
right? If you have enough collateral from your marketing team and good communication with them, and you're working in tandem to benefit your target audience at most effectively, then you should have a lot of cannon fodder to offer. I find that straight up giving to your target buyers
Mm-hmm.
gets better replies than having an ask. What's an ask? We see a lot of asks that are the same. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? Here's my calendar link. Feel free to schedule a time at your convenience because you'd like
Yeah.
them to do that work for you, right?
Yeah.
We see a lot of like, is this interesting to you? The interest-based call to action, where you're looking for that yes or no. Is this a priority for you? These are calls to
Mm.
action that we
Yeah.
see very commonly, and none of them are bad calls to action. Let's be really clear about that.
Yeah.
It's all about pragmatism here. So I'm not
Mm.
calling out those calls to action and saying they're bad. What I
Yeah.
am saying is that the common message today that just asks for something after
Mm.
you make your point is what people are actively turned off from right now because it
Mm-hmm.
can be automated because we
Yeah.
don't trust it
Yeah.
innately, right?
Uh-huh.
So a call to action definitely is that thing that people are alerted by. This was based on websites, not emails, but it was spun at one point as if it was email related. But there was a thing called the F-shaped email that was very popular for a long time.
Mm.
And we believed that people read emails like this. Who's reaching out to me? And then our eyes skip down to the bottom and we
Uh-huh.
want to see what they're asking for. And then
Yeah.
we jump back in and fill in the blank.
Uh-huh.
Now, that's true.
Uh-huh.
That's how our eyes work, but not when we read emails, when we read websites, right?
Uh-huh.
So, what does this mean? This means,
Mhm.
and I'm using information from a couple of friends of mine, Beck Holland and Jeff Hoffman. Both of these folks heavily influenced how the F-shaped email theory
Yeah.
unfolded recently. But when you think about a give, something that comes their way and it's just theirs because it's relevant. And my common message that I send is like, you're a title.
Mhm.
I have this thing. It's
Yeah.
for titles like you, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Here it is. You can have it.
Yeah.
Love to hear if it's interesting, and if it's not, totally fine. I have more
Uh-huh.
stuff. Talk soon.
Yeah.
And the subject line in that message is no ask, just to give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These have wild replies. And when I say
Mm.
wild, I mean like so many people will get back to you and be like, thanks for sharing.
Uh-huh.
That's the reply.
Uh-huh.
Hey, thanks for sending this along. Hey, this is interesting.
Uh-huh.
These are way better replies than
Fuck
remove me
off.
from this list,
Yeah.
right? Stop emailing me,
Yeah.
right? These types of replies are the replies we're getting from those automations and those drips that we believe, for some reason, are super effective. They're not if we're not using them appropriately. So
Yeah.
stop having asks all throughout your email drip campaigns and instead just give like 3, 4 times things that
Mm-hmm.
are relevant to your
Mm-hmm.
buyers. And then maybe in like the fifth email, or maybe when they actually reply and say thank you.
Hmm.
And some of them will get back to me and be like, "Hey, thanks for sending all this great stuff," after like three or four things. And they'll be
Yeah.
like, "What can I do for you?" Which is the best question that a salesperson can ever be asked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Um, and how do you use AI in your sales process?
So I think that I am a reluctant adopter. And when I
Mhm.
say reluctant, I mean that for 2 years now, I have just kind of sat back and watched how things have been going on, maybe even longer than that. John Barrows, my very good friend John, is cutting edge on the AI side. He's always been heavily interested in it. And I've seen like AI versions of him that speak multiple languages fluently. I mean, it's just been crazy the things
Yeah.
that AI can do, right? But my fear was always that it was going to take my voice away. It was going to remove the me from my messaging. And I'm big on like my personality being part of what sells for me. I sell with a lot of energy. I get people very excited to do things. I get them amped about experiments that we can run. That's the way that I sell. It's my forthcoming energy that gets people interested in working with me further. And that's an amazing way to sell. The problem is that not everybody has that energy,
Mm,
right? So for me, I use AI for things like research, but I've also used it to inform me about an industry ad nauseum. So, great example of that is I want to attract right now more insurance salespeople to my show.
mm,
Almost like 60 to 80% pretty consistently in
mm,
between there is B2B, sales companies that come to our show. Well, I think the tactics that we share about sales emails and social selling and cold calling and how to conduct a good demo and how to negotiate, I think all those things are relevant to every salesperson, regardless of your
yeah.
industry. You're going to
Yeah.
probably come away with one or two nuggets from our show,
Yeah.
So I want to attract them to the show.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know anything about insurance sales. I've never sold insurance.
Uh-huh.
So how do I attract those people if I know nothing about it?
Yeah.
Enter AI,
Uh-huh.
right? This is where I can go deep on it. So I open up a simple chat GPT and I
Yeah.
start with the basics.
Uh-huh.
Give me the top sales training practices that are often taught to insurance salespeople. Boom, it gives me that. So then I say, tell me who the top performing salespeople that won awards last in 2024 were. And
Uh-huh.
bam, it gives me a list of people. Now I can go follow those people on LinkedIn, right? And then I can go further and further with iteration. And before I know it, I'm having real conversations with sales insurance people and their leaders, and
Yeah.
just full circle moment here,
Yeah.
giving them resources,
Yeah.
100% just gives, and
Uh-huh.
that pulls them to my show. And
Yeah.
now my show audience grows in
Uh-huh.
an industry that we previously did not have access to. And what have I done, really?
Yeah.
All I've done is give. I haven't even
Yeah.
asked for anything yet, but
Uh-huh.
that time is a coming.
Yeah. Yeah, the insurance guys are a very interesting area because
I'll
they
bet
can.
90% of sales insurance professionals wish that they had more at bats with their clients.
Yeah.
And my response to them, if they're listening to this and thinking that, is they can come learn at Sell Better.
Can learn. Um, and do you think insurance people uh, can use, yeah, for sure they can use social media, but how they can do that actually? Uh, my audience is not in insurance, but I sometimes I have people that approach me from insurance industry, and they're like, yeah, well, how can I use social media? Like, yeah, just just approach people and build your network. Like, how?
Well, for most people, I think we overcomplicate the purpose of building a network.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I
Yeah.
was lucky to learn very early was
Uh-huh.
not to tie what I'm creating to a specific industry,
Yeah.
right? So while most of our audience is B2B, SaaS, and tech,
Mm-hmm.
that's because as a sales training company, where this show started from, where this company was born from, John
Mm-hmm.
Barrow's sales training became a separate company called Sell Better,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our roots were all settled in B2B SaaS and technology, right? So that's the audience we started with. But fast forward 4 years, we see insurance people at the show.
Uh-huh.
We see government salespeople, higher ed. We see a lot of different merchandising and retail people come to the show. It's an amazing thing to see
Yeah.
all these different sales professionals come to the show.
Mm-hmm.
We also see a ton of international salespeople. And here's something interesting. It's really interesting to see how far behind certain countries are on the trends of what is working in certain markets. I've had to learn over time the different cultural sales practices. For example, John Barrows taught me that when a Japanese business person hands you their business card, it's customary to hang on to that card and not put it in your pocket until they walk away.
Uh-huh.
Right. That's a cultural sales faux pas that Americans often fall victim to. Thank you for your card. I'll just stick it in my pocket and pretend I did.
Yeah.
Right. But they give it to you and you're supposed to hang on to it. You're supposed to, give it some
Yeah.
sort of honor. And that's an important note if you're a
Yeah.
sales professional that's dealing in a Japanese market, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, I know that there are certain gestures that are not appreciated in certain
Uh-huh.
countries.
Oh.
There's tonalities that have to change when you're selling in Germany, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Small talk is very appreciated on one part of the continent, but not another. And we have to know those things if we
Uh-huh.
are going to be effective selling to an international crowd, which I do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's there's this knowledge gap
Yeah.
that I think, takes a little bit of time. I would say within a decade, you pick up a lot of just everyday practice knowledge
Uh-huh.
that sticks with you and becomes useful over time.
Yeah. I didn't know small talk is not is not cool in some
Some
countries.
some countries quite literally do not care about the small talk. What do you want
Uh-huh.
from me?
Yeah.
I just did. So I actually just did. I don't know if you're familiar with Nooks. Are you familiar with Nooks?
No.
So Nook's a fantastic platform, and they're all about cold calling. That's their thing.
Uh-huh.
And they do this like, cold calling together platforms like a virtual sales floor. Very awesome.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And we did this challenge where I had to eat this really hot sauce, and I had to cold call this robot that they put together, and the robot's name was Jim Hardass,
Uh-huh.
and he was a tough, but like it was hard to schedule the meeting. Like he was being
Uh-huh.
really rude, like
Uh-huh.
super rude,
Oh.
and you have to have thick skin in sales, but also I have this
Uh-huh.
hot sauce, right? So I'm a little bit
Yeah.
distracted, and I'm trying to nail this meeting. But he kept saying to me, "Don't waste my time. If
Oh.
you can't, if you can't prove the value, then I don't want to be on this call." And how
Uh-huh.
did you get my mind? Is this a sales call? Like it was just so you're like, oh God, like my mouth is on fire. You're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Uh, so these are the types of like things that salespeople should do, right? To have fun with
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
that's the part of it that I think people let go of is that it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted also to ask you. This is a bit like answer to my question that I didn't ask. How should salespeople or coaches, because my audience is are coaches, and consultants, if imagine there is a coach or consultant that is starting his business, and how could he or she train, sales conversations when he doesn't have a team? What now?
Are you
Yeah.
saying how can somebody start to become a trainer or a sales consultant without
No, no,
having
no,
a
no, no.
team? Is that what's the maybe I'm missing the question.
No, no, no. Uh, he's a consultant or a coach.
Uh-huh.
He can be a wellness coach or something like that, and he
Okay.
he would like to he's Mark, okay? And Mark would like to be better at sales because he's a wellness guy. He was also like kind of yoga stuff and so on and so on. And now he would like to, grow his business. And he has only 4 hours a day or two hours a day. And he knows that, okay, I would like to build a business, like uh, build a business in 2 hours a day or 4 hours a day. I have 2 years and I would like to grow it to 7 figures.
Okay.
How could Mark approach sales? And how could he train actually when he doesn't have a team? He doesn't have clients. Should he go and cold call, or should he go?
So first of all, there's no shortage of resources out there.
Yeah,
And if you need resources, I'm definitely that person. So hit me up.
yeah,
Sellbetter.xyz also has a lot of resources there.
yeah,
But let's talk about it as if there is some level of resources already in place, and let's get into like the how would they manage the time to build a sales strategy. I think that's the crux of your question.
yeah.
So here we go, right?
Mhm,
Time management and task management are often a good place to start. If you think about what needs to happen in a sales cycle for you to find, attract, land, and expand on a new client, that requires certain hats to be worn in stages. So separate your time out accordingly. You need time to prospect. You need time to then work an existing pipeline of deals. You
mhm,
need time to close and onboard those deals. And then you need time to keep those deals, support those deals. If you're a single person, that's a lot of hats.
yeah,
That's a lot of time.
yeah.
So, what does this mean? It means one, you've got to be able to manage the time, block off the time needed to be able to do all those jobs at a consistent level. Maybe it's 2 hours a day of prospecting time. One
Mhm,
of those hours is all email, the one of those hours is all calls, cold
mhm,
calls.
mhm,
I would say because you're in a certain market, it's on you to be knowledgeable about what channels are effective in that market. Good example of that would be construction.
mhm,
Sure, we can see success in email in construction sales. We can see more success on calls in construction sales.
mhm,
What we don't see is a lot of LinkedIn connections happening in the construction world
mhm,
because, well, those if you're selling to the construction site managers, the people that are on site,
mhm,
chances are good they don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn.
mhm.
they're
Yeah,
busy running their construction site.
yeah. They're very
Right.
busy.
So there's a knowledge of your own industry that I
Yeah.
think needs to exist.
Mhm,
And you can build your channels and your time into that knowledge.
mhm,
So you schedule that time. Okay, cool. Maybe you do that on Mondays and Wednesdays. Well,
mhm,
Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's the time that you're going to manage that existing pipe.
mhm,
It's the most important time because that's the time that moves the momentum of the deals that you have.
mhm.
So then you have Friday left.
Okay.
What's Friday going to be? Well, you have a couple options. You can split that time up and do content
Mhm.
and then do a little bit of prospecting. I've always found Friday to be an amazing day for cold calling and prospecting because people are in a great mood. The weekend's about to
Yeah.
kick off. They're amped. Hey, what's up? What can I do for you? Are you having a good day? Like,
Yeah,
right?
drink
I am having a
drinking
good day
beer.
actually. Now that I'm talking to you,
Yeah.
right? So you can really play on the dopamine hit of what Friday represents to a lot of people if you're going to call on a Friday afternoon.
Huh?
But be ready; those are quick conversations. They don't want to go into anything deep on a Friday. You got to be in
Huh?
and out. Is this interesting? Let's talk
Yeah.
on Monday.
Yeah.
It's a good way to get that. So from there, I think you can look at what's going to happen internally. Let's not beat around the bush here. No matter
Mhm.
what is happening, you're going to have things come at you that are going to take priority.
Mhm.
Your kid is going to get sick. You're going to have to go and pick them up.
Mhm.
If you're a single person, again, you're talking about an entrepreneur here starting out on their own, they're a consultant. you know, you have to put in the late nights.
Yeah.
I get up really early and I lift weights and I run and walk and like, that's how I set my day. If I don't do
Yeah.
that, I feel like I'm off for the rest of the day.
Uh-huh.
The problem is that I'm exhausted at 3:30 in the afternoon. My
Hmm.
body is like, dude, you need a nap. So I bake the time in
Yeah.
to go upstairs and just zone out for a 45-minute nap.
Yeah.
And then when I come back to it, I'm fresh, I'm ready.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
feel I feel renewed.
Yeah.
Right? This is how we manage our time and our stress levels and the way that our brain chemistry works to benefit our businesses. Also, no, consultants sell internationally, man. If you're having trouble sleeping, get up. Somebody in Europe is awake right now and buying.
Yeah. That's what I do when I'm like overstimulated. I'm like getting up at 1 a.m. I'm like, let's hop on a webinar." Why
Well, I
not?
think I think there's some advantages to being a global salesperson.
Yeah.
And it helps to be a green fields sales rep and not a named accounts sales rep as well. Sometimes that's a little different from company to company or from consultancy to consultancy.
Mhm. Okay. Okay, we will wrap it up in a minute, but I would like to ask you a bit cheeky question. Like Giulio, this guy, the Italian guy on LinkedIn.
I know who he is.
I would
Yeah.
like to ask it. Can I ask a cheeky question? Your biggest mistake in sales?
Ah,
Failure, sorry. Failure in
I know my biggest mistake, and it's not something I can avoid. It happens very naturally for me, and
yeah.
I've learned to use it to my advantage
Mhm.
instead of to my detriment. I get too familiar too fast. I am
Uh,
very comfortable talking to strangers, and
okay.
some buyers are okay with this. They like
Yeah.
that magnetism, but some are a little bit guarded, and
Mhm.
they don't like how familiar I get and how
Uh,
comfortable I am talking to them
yeah.
very quickly. But not every seller is for every buyer.
Yeah.
Every selling personality has a certain buying personality that likes to buy from them.
Hmm.
And there are lots of selling personalities that buying personalities of all types
Hmm.
naturally avoid.
Yeah.
You don't have to be liked to be a professional salesperson,
Mm.
but it helps to be knowledgeable and valuable, right? It helps if you're liked. You close more deals when you're liked, but it's not
Yeah.
required.
Yeah.
Grant Cardone is not a very well liked human being in a lot of
Yeah.
circles, and yet
Yeah.
he is who he is.
Yeah.
Jordan Belfort, same conversation, right? There are many people that will tell
Mm.
you these people are not people that are
Yeah.
worth their
Mm.
their time. But there's a whole other set of billions of people that are like, no, I love these guys, you know? So you have to look at it like that from a
Yeah.
sales perspective too. My personality is not for every buyer. I'm
Yeah.
willing to accept that. My
Mm.
job is to create content and use that personality to attract the people that do like that personality. I
Yeah.
can sell to those folks much easier than I can the folks that are like, I don't like James Buckley. He's not my
Yeah.
style. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It was very, very, it actually is very, very nice to talk to you, but we have to go. Um, yeah, and thank you very much
Oh, it's
for,
my pleasure. Thank you so
yeah.
much. Once again, anybody tuning in, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I am the
Yeah.
most responsive human that you'll ever speak with.
I will I will link you up in
Yeah,
on the video on YouTube and under our posts. So yeah, once more, thank you very much. I really appreciate that you came here to the podcast, and yeah, have a good time
it's
and
my
a good
pleasure. We'll see you
weekend.
soon. Thanks for having me, my friend.
See you. Bye. Thanks.
Later.